Hey doll, it's your girl Kizzy Rock. So, I read your email last night, but I knew that there was a lot I wanted to say. So, because it was late, I didn't want to respond because, again, before I respond to anybody, I have to be sure that I'm moving in spirit. And sometimes when you're tired like that, you're not hearing from spirit properly. So, I wanted to get up this morning and reread your email and tell you the downloads I got in the spirit as I was reading. First and foremost, your story literally broke my heart, literally. And this just goes to show how the strongest people have the most pain, and we just smile to make the world think we're okay, and because we have to hold the fort down. Well, first thing, you said you didn't meet your mother until 18 years old at your graduation. Well, that right there is definitely ways to leave the seed of abandonment and the seed of rejection. You also mentioned things that happened to you within the foster home. My spirit tells me there's some kind of abuse. Not sure what it is, but a lot of times within those foster homes, you got sexual abuse going on, you got physical abuse going on, neglect, etc. So again, you were abandoned from the jump by your mother. I understand she had an addiction, and I'm grateful that you're one of the people who can understand that people with addictions can still be lovable people and who can want to do the right thing, but the addiction have them so screwed up. So you didn't turn your back on your mother, obviously, because you said help saw her through to the very end. So what happens is when we come from these very toxic situations like that, there's a good chance that your mother experienced and went through a lot of the same things you did in childhood. Someone dropped her, someone abandoned her. And so as she grew up, she didn't have the tools the way we have the tools today, right? So when you got families who's molested and all that stuff back in those generations, it was really kept a secret, so it was swept under the rug. So then what happens as time go on? She tends to mask that pain. And before you know it, as an adult, she then spirals out of control, tries maybe alcohol, maybe drugs at some point, attempting to numb her pain, and eventually ends up addicted. So she dropped you. She dropped you because she didn't know how to care for you. No excuse at all, but it's just reality of what happens. And so here you're growing up in foster homes, going through all of the same issues that your mother and your grandmother may have went through. And so within these foster homes, you still have that hole, that emptiness. So then you decide to learn how to mask your pain after so long. And then this is why when you did meet her at 18, you didn't have that, like you said, you didn't have that anger, but you just didn't want to be bothered. It's because you had already learned to mask that hurt and mask that pain all of the years in your childhood. So even though you weren't upset with her, it still had to be that feeling of why me? Was I not good enough? So then in turn, that developed these seeds of low confidence and lack of self-esteem because you don't feel worthy. It's almost like if my parents didn't want me, then why would anybody want me? And then before you know it, you start to go out in the world as an adult. And then what happens? You meet men. And then who do you attract? Toxic men with that same type of behavior, because you said your husband he's in and out jail. He's done some bids. So because you're not whole and because you're not healed at that point, then that's what you attract. Trauma attracts trauma a lot of the times. And so what happens is because you already don't feel worthy enough, you find yourself wanting to take care of a whole man. You want to fix him. You don't want him to hurt. Why? Because you know exactly what that hurt feels like. You know what it feels like to be dropped. You know what it feels like to be abandoned. So because you know what it feels like, then whatever man, well, your husband, respectfully, that you fell in love with, you are trying to overcompensate that love and overcompensate all the toxic stuff that you're allowing because you don't want him to hurt, as well as you don't want him to leave you. Because see, you're already operating from a sense of abandonment and rejection from your childhood, from your own mother. So the last thing you want him to do is leave you. So you will do everything in your power to keep him, including allowing him to cheat over and over, allowing him to keep going back and forth in jail, coming home and doing you wrong all over again. Why can't you leave? You can't leave because you have your own seed of abandonment. So you're clinging on to him because you don't want him to leave you. It's trauma bonding. It's toxic empathy. It's toxic spirits. It's soul ties. It's all that stuff in one that's bonded with the other, with each other. Also, you said you have 4 children of your own. You lost one at 4 months old. So you've been hit with abandonment after abandonment after abandonment. So you are very deeply wounded. And all you're doing is you're literally out here. It's almost like you're in a daze. And you even said that towards the very end of your email. Like you're so hurt, you just don't feel like you can go left or right, or you can't see. It's because you're literally operating in a daze. It's almost like fume. It's almost like you're not even living. You're literally just surviving one day at a time. Now, there's something that you hit on and you kind of stayed on it within the email. As long as that email was, you kept coming back to this one thing. And that one thing was your mother-in-law, your mother-in-law who called, I'm going to assume that's Child Protective Services. They're called something different, I think, in like each state, but Child Protective Services for whatever reason. And that one thing, the way you keep talking about it and the way you describe it, that one thing hurt you probably more than your own mother abandoning you. And there's a good chance it's because guess what? If someone is trying to take your children or calling Child Protective Services for whatever reason, what is that hitting? That is hitting that seed of abandonment that your mother did to you. So the pain that you felt when your mother abandoned you, that hurt, all of the stuff you went through in the foster homes, you associate that with that same thing happening to your children. So what happens is you see red. Of course, you don't bother a woman's children or a parent's children, period. But because someone is attempting to have those children taken away from you, and you know what happens when children are taken away from you, that right there is why you have so much rage. Of course, ultimately, yes, you're pissed that someone calls Child Protective Services. People do that on each other all the time, being petty and just all that stuff. So you will never see that as a moment as my mother-in-law got pissed with me because X, Y, and Z, and she just wanted to try to get me back. You will always see that as someone is trying to take my children, and my children will deal with abandonment. My children will be molested. My children will suffer all these things in adulthood the same way I did because they wouldn't have a mother. That's why that stings so bad, and you can't figure out why that one thing is more potent than how your own mother didn't show up for you. You say you have high blood pressure, and you're asking God to remove the high blood pressure. Well, with everything you got going on, I mean, of course, I'm not going to get into the eating habits and things like that because I don't know. But stress. Again, a lot of these issues that we have going on, of course, not all, but a lot of them is related to the fact that we are literally moving every day with trauma and toxic energy within our bodies. We're holding on to all this stuff. And our bodies are not designed to handle this, especially when these things are not being released. So let's just say you've never told anybody the things you went through in foster home. You never told anybody that you didn't meet your mother until you were 18 years old at your graduation. If you never said that to anybody, that means all along you were holding all that stuff in, and you thought that it doesn't bother you. You thought that you're over it. No, you just suppressed it. So you just writing this email, you were probably crying, you were releasing it. So that is a form of release. This is why I tell people also that it's crucial to journal. If you're not someone who have anybody that you feel you can trust to expel some of your most darkest secrets, journal, write it down on a pad and tear it up. But it must leave your spirit. You're only as sick as your secrets. So again, because a lot of this stuff is generational conditioning, and it has happened to your mama, your grandmama, your great-grandmama, your great-great-grandmama, and so on. Because you can now acknowledge it, because you can now speak about it, because you are so attracted to my videos, you're a chosen one. You're chosen to break these generational curses. You have 4 children. I'm not sure if you have grandchildren, but you got to break this cycle. If you have to spend the rest of your days to break this cycle, to heal yourself, to be a better example and a healthy example, showing your children what healthy love is, not to tolerate a man cheating on you in and out jail, not to tolerate living right next door in a duplex to a mother-in-law who's toxic and calling, like you're in a war zone. So you're fighting for your life every day. You said when you go outside and y'all see each other, you don't talk. That is toxic. That means when you probably pull up at home at times, you get that sinking and feeling in your gut. That's toxic. You got to free yourself. And there's a good chance you will not be able to even free yourself because, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of looking over some more of your notes. Because again, you're not healed. You also stated that you have out of all your siblings, everybody's messed up. Now you said sick. I don't know if that meant sick health-wise or sick mentally. But your brother, one of the brothers in particular, the younger one who you grew up with, you said, he's a whirlwind. He's a whirlwind. And you're literally trying to save him. And then you found out that at some point, maybe when you hit rock bottom, he wouldn't even help you with your child to get diapers. Well, your brother is probably just as screwed up as you are and the other siblings are. Because again, you all experience, that war zone, that survivor mode, living on edge, even as children. And of course, some men, they don't express themselves. So their hurt run way more deeper than our hurt. Like the same way you're sitting here expelling all of the stuff that you went through, your brother probably never told anybody how he feel. He probably don't even know how to verbalize how he feel. So then all that stuff is internal. This is why they act out. This is why you have abusive men. Like that, the guy the NFL player recently who was on the news for, I didn't want to watch that recording. I truly didn't, because I heard how triggering it could be, but I watched it anyway. And that type of rage that came out with him, and again, I'm not making any excuses, but that type of rage, when you look at him and you look at his photo, just like the mugshot, that's internal rage. That's things that he held in all of his life. And all that stuff comes out on whoever really hits that trigger point. That can be the person at the corner store who rubbed you the wrong way. That can be that person who you love the most because, okay, quote unquote, my mother abandoned me, and here now you're threatening to leave me. You hitting that trigger point, and he lost it, and he deserved everything is coming to him. But my point is, when you see people really acting out in certain ways, it's because they're suppressing a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, and they don't even know how to express that stuff properly. Many of us were dropped. And then a lot of people want to blame their parents. But I mean, how much did your parents really know if they weren't taught? If they grew up in survivor mode, if they grew up getting molested by uncles and granddaddies and this and that, and then they in turn to drugs or alcohol and mask their pain and boom, full blown addiction. But now now you want them to raise you with this Disney World of a childhood. They never had the tools. And again, there's no excuse, because I do know there's a lot of people who get triggered by this, and it's almost like it's no excuse. If she went through that, then she should have done the opposite to be sure I was good. So some people get triggered by that because they have to relive everything they felt, the abandonment, that hurt, that pain. So it's almost like they're so guarded. They can't even hear that, quote unquote, my parents didn't have the tools. All they hear and all they feel is my parent dropped me. And the result of that, I'm in toxic marriages. I'm allowing abusive relationships. I don't even know how to love my children properly, right? I don't even know how to maintain healthy relationships because I constantly have trauma triggers. So all these things that happen as a result of parents just not being able to not love us. Because they love us. But a lot of times they just didn't have the tools. Now, are you going to spend a lifetime being upset with them? Not you, because you've been very clear about, even at the end of your mother's life, addiction, I guess, got the best of her. And 50 years old is very, very young to, pass away. But what are you going to do in her legacy? Are you going to start your healing process? It's going to be the most difficult thing you ever done, because you're going to have to relive everything. You're going to have to relive when she abandoned you. You're going to have to relive every single thing that happened to you in that foster home. You're going to have to relive that pain of seeing her for the first time at 18 years old at your graduation. You're going to have to relive the moment that your mother-in-law called Child Protective Services. You're going to relive the times your husband cheated on you, even though you remained faithful when he was in and out jail. You're going to have to relive the pain that you see in your brother's eyes every day, and the times he rejected helping you when you've given him everything. You're going to have to relive all that stuff in order to process it. Once you process it, God will help to heal you. Once you're healed, you will probably always have a limp for the rest of your life. But at least once you're healed, you will not feel obligated to stay with a man who's, first of all, in and out jail, right? Cheating on you. Like, dude, pick a struggle, right? Okay, that was that was petty. That was petty. But how you in jail and you can't even be faithful? And child, at least you have children now, and maybe grandchildren. I'm not sure, but at least if you heal, the legacy you can leave behind is showing them that even if you didn't get married until 80, a healthy marriage. Even if you didn't heal to the point where you're able to just show them what living and not surviving is, that's legacy within itself. Because you gave them a view of it. So don't let people tell you, because now you're 50, now because you're 60, you waited too late and you could never affect the lives. No. You're laying the blueprint. Right? You also say that you wrote a book and it was never released. Listen, release that book, and also release a book with everything you're talking about now. And it doesn't have to be, of course, so in detail to everything you experienced. But the point is, leave a book to let them know how you went from trauma to healing to destiny. Give them the blueprint. No one ever gave it to you. And that's why you're all messed up. Do you want your children to go through every single thing you're going through now? Do you want your children to be in toxic marriages? Can't come out the front door because the mother-in-law is toxic. Every single thing. We can give 1,000 examples of toxic things, right? Not just cheating, not just, crazy mother-in-laws, right? We can give 1,000 examples of toxic things that we deal with. Ultimately, every single thing results back to the seed of being unhealed. When you are healed, these things it just can't exist. It can no longer exist, because when you're healed, you know who you are. When you're healed, you have boundaries. When you heal, you allow no toxic energy nor toxic people around you when you're healed. So we can give 1,000 ways on how to fix a crazy mother-in-law, right? We can give 1,000 ways on how to eventually let go of a man who's in and out jail and cheating on you in the process. Pick a struggle, dude. It's like, none of that matters. None of that matters. What matters is when you tap in, you recognize that you need to be healed, then you invite God in and ask God to show you how to start this journey. Again, I gotta be real with you. If you ask God to step in to help you heal, put your seatbelt on from head to toe, because it's going to be the ride of your life, right? So this is not about asking God to step in just to help your little wound. This is about that, but it's also about you breaking generational cycles, as well as you laying the foundation for the generation coming behind you. This is why it would be so difficult. So really, with the chosen ones, your life is really not about enjoying yourself. I mean, technically, God will make sure that you enjoy yourself, but ultimately, you're here for a purpose: to break generational curses, to leave a legacy, to lay the foundation for. Like, your life really is about purpose versus enjoyment. But again, of course, God is good, so He will be sure that we enjoy it while we're here. But you have work to do, sis. I've got a lot of emails, and I've never read one that broke my heart like this. There's so much you've been through as a person. How can one person, and I didn't even mention some of the stuff, but how can one person go through all that and not lose their mind, not be on medication that literally have you walking around here like a zombie? That's grace. That is grace, because you have purpose. So whatever you do, sis, stay strong. But yes, I can give you a list of things you need to do. Remove the toxic mama. You need to move. First of all, you need to move. You need to leave. Well, I need to tell you leave your husband, but listen, you got to pick a struggle, right? I can tell you to get rid of that adult brother who's literally living off of you, right? I can tell you all that. But that seed of abandonment is going to have you feeling like, I can't put my brother out, because then he will be abandoned like I was abandoned. I can't leave my husband because he may go find somebody else and everybody else has left me. I can't have him to leave me, right? So I can give you things to do, but because that seed and because you're still wounded there, you can hear me, but you won't have the strength to do so. You have the grace to do so, but you don't have the strength in the flesh to do so. This is why healing first is important. Once you heal, then again, everything else falls off. Once you heal, when you look back at your life and the things you tolerated, you will be so disgusted with yourself. Like, how did I let this dude back into my life after he died? Like, you will think like that. But then you have to be gentle with yourself to know you only know what you know. You didn't know that. So I encourage you, sis. I encourage you to go to your source. Ask God to step in. If you're ready now, like I tell you, you got to be ready. If you're ready, ask Him to give you wisdom. Ask Him to show you how to start your journey to your healing process. He will guide you. But He's going to ask you to do some things that is going to be triggering. It's going to be triggering. So then when he asks you to start removing certain people, when he asks you to start, the question is going to remain, how bad do you want it? If you want it bad enough where you know that you are truly ready to enjoy life and you want to be sure your children are good, then you got to focus on, I want it bad enough. That's going to be the only thing that keep you in the game, in the process. That's going to be the only thing, is the outcome. The outcome. So I hope this helps you. It's just know that your story is very common, believe it or not. Most people just don't talk about it. You have people who would say, oh, well, black women are so angry and black women are so... Well, listen, no excuse, but haven't they been through a lot that most races haven't? But it's no excuse that we can't take accountability now and heal ourselves, because we deserve it. It's your girl.